What's going on, everybody?
What up?
Welcome to episode 21 of the Reload Show. We are just three guys sitting around talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Wait a second. No, we're talking real estate. We're talking mortgage. And I've got with me today, as always, the one, the only Mark Sullivan. And I've got Candido Diaz, Candid Mortgage Guy, here with me as well. I'm Sean. We are your hosts. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've got a topic today. Candido, tell us about it.
Well, first of all, welcome, Abe Lincoln. So today we are going to be discussing the NAR lawsuit, the settlement. It's a hot topic in real estate. Seems like everybody has an opinion, a stance on it. So, we just started randomly talking about it the other day. And I thought, you know what? I think people want to hear what we have to say. So that's what we're going to discuss today.
Phenomenal. Hey, and if you're checking us out online, make sure let us know where you're watching from. Let us know. We want to see how far of a reach across the country we've got. We hope that you're watching from everywhere. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for joining us. If you're watching us directly through StreamYard, excited to have you here as well. So the NAR lawsuit and the proposed settlement, we're going to dive into that today. Now, don't get it twisted. If you've undoubtedly, unless you've been living under a rock, you've undoubtedly seen massive amounts of information about this online, on social media, especially on social media. And this isn't going to be three guys ranting about the NAR settlement. So if you tuned in to hear us gripe and complain about it, that's not where, Mark's like, oh man, I'm out of here. We are here to talk about it and talk about the opportunity that it presents, how to win in the post-implementation era, assuming this even gets approved. So first and foremost, the NAR proposed settlement does have to be approved by the courts. This is not something that is full effect as of yet. If approved, this goes into effect in July. So a couple of quick hits before we get into thoughts and conversation about it. The main points of the NAR proposed settlement, there's two critical changes coming down the pipeline with this. Number one is that any NAR related, National Association of Realtors, any NAR related MLS is no longer going to be allowed to identify buyer agent commission in the MLS. It's something that's going to have to be negotiated outside of the MLS. Agents are going to have to reach out to listing agents to find that out. So cannot be in the MLS. Number two, big change, and this really isn't that big of a change, honestly, is buyer's agents are going to be required to have a broker-buyer representation agreement. Right now, it is technically encouraged, but is not required. That is going to be a requirement if everything goes into effect in July. So those are the major key pieces. That's what we're going to dive into, our thoughts, how to win, how to be successful, and what to do and not to do on social. If you're a real estate agent checking us out, really important. Don't be like your competition and just gripe and try and justify your value. But Candido, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about your thoughts and kind of what you want to dive into on this one.
That was, Sean always says the PG version, don't bitch and moan. That's really what it is.
I have little kids. I have to filter.
I do too. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, there's a few things that I wanted to dive into. Obviously, you just scroll through social media at all, and you're going to see a lot of different stances. One that I saw that kept coming up, home prices are going to go down because of this. And I did a video on social media yesterday. I don't know why. That seems to be almost a public perception that is false. I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe because people really want home prices to come down.
Homes will be free.
Yes, homes will be. Well, no, they can't be free. $1.
That's actually my presidential platform that I was actually planning on launching tomorrow. But thanks, Candido. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no. I'm all
Who's with
about
Mark for president.
all about ruining that campaign. So that is number one. I just don't know where that's coming from. It seems to be a common misconception. So, my advice would be just, you want to obviously educate people, do it in a nice way, which kind of leads into my second point. I have seen, especially from mortgage loan officers, a huge lack of empathy, more like haha, realtors, you had it coming sort of stance, to which I say, I guess they never want to work with another realtor for the rest of their career. This is a chance to be empathetic. Look, we truly don't know how this is all going to play out. Like Sean said, there's still a ways to go with this. And I don't just think it's yes. Right now, it's scheduled to take place mid-July, but it's going to take years to truly see how this all plays out. So, with that being said, be empathetic, and even if you don't truly feel that way, maybe just play one on TV, appear to be empathetic, because I think that's going to go a lot farther than you taking a hard stance that haha, realtors, you had this coming. I just don't see how that's going to go ahead and help anyone. Sean, you have something to say?
Well, yeah, Candido. So let's go back to your first point about home prices going down, that sentiment kind of being out in the marketplace right now. And again, we don't know, the bottom line is we don't know what's going to come of this. I think the sentiment out there, and I understand the thought process, right? Is, if sellers don't have to pay the buyer's agents any longer, then they may be willing to accept less for the home. So that might bring home prices down. Or if the buyer has to also pay their agent, then they may not offer as much on the home. And I think those are all potentials that could happen. I think they're, again, how it plays out is going to be, we're not going to know in July. We're not going to know in November. We're going to start to see a hint of this over time. But those are things that could happen. And although they could happen, I don't believe that is kind of the best focus. The impact to the market itself, I think you could speculate in a million different ways. Oh, well, if sellers don't offer the, upwards of 3%, then buyer's agents, may not be willing to show the home. And, then we're getting into ethics because they're not necessarily doing their fiduciary duty to the client. And so there's all kinds of politics that goes into that. Here's kind of my piece, and then I'll pass it over to you, Mark. My thoughts on it is, first and foremost, if you're a loan officer, if you're a real estate agent, at the end of the day, the number one thing that I believe is consumers do not care about our compensation, whether it's lender compensation, whether it's real estate agent compensation. They do not care about our compensation. Now, from a conceptual standpoint, do they want people to do work and not get paid for it? Probably not. I think if you would ask, if you went out and asked 100 people, hey, do you want people to do work and not get paid for it? They would say no. I think majority of them would say no, if not all. But the actual details of our compensation, how we get paid, I don't think that consumers care about that. So as agents, I think it's not, we don't need to be out there trying to justify why we get paid by doing the list of everything we do and all that fun stuff. I think the pieces of the industry that are really going to get impacted are the skills required to succeed related to compensation. And so what do I mean by that? Number one, I believe that the skill of negotiation is going to be amplified tremendously. It's already important in our industry. I think the importance of that is going to get amplified, and agents are really going to have to beef up their negotiation skills. The second piece of that I think is going to change is I believe that the skill around having difficult or challenging conversations is going to get amplified as well. I think there's a lot of conversations that are kind of brushed over right now in the industry, and the ability to have really challenging conversations about money, a very sensitive topic, is going to be a big piece, in my opinion. So I think focusing on those skills, improving those skills is a fantastic way to get out ahead of this, create strategies, frameworks, processes around those conversations. And I think that's a winning formula for anyone in the industry, but especially agents, if this in fact does go into effect. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't disagree with either of you. So if anybody was tuning in to look for arguments, I don't think you're going to find it here. But I think honestly, my whole take on this entire thing is that it's way overblown, and that little things will change, but the grand scheme of things, very little will change overall. I think the loudest people on, whether it be on social media or whether it be on the news, when they're discussing this, the loudest people benefit from people being angry about this. The loudest people benefit from people being scared about this, depending on who you are. It always seems like the loudest people are the ones that stand to benefit financially from this. And it's no different now. It's the marketing people that are loud and are saying that there's not going to be any more buyer's agents next year, right? That's false. There's honestly, I think very little will change before this settlement. Me as a seller, if I went to the listing agent, if I went to interview a listing agent and I said, hey, I only want to pay 3% here, or I'm only going to pay 2% here, or I don't want to pay anything to a buyer's agent. I was well within my right to demand that before. Right. And a buyer's agent was well within the right to then go and negotiate their fair pay. Right. They were more well within the right to say, okay, we're putting an offer on this home. This is what we're offering. This is what I need the compensation to be so that I can get paid for the work I'm going to be doing, yada, yada. And, we're going to say, I'll just say something like off the cuff, like, because this doesn't really exist. But before, buyer's agents also, like whenever they saw that, maybe they were more inclined to show other opportunities to their buyers, or they were more inclined to point out potential defects of a house to dissuade their buyers from buying it. Not saying anybody ever did that, quote, or disclaimer, cough, cough. However, so that, and as a listing agent, you would advise your client, hey, it's your call. We can go that route, but just know that if you're not going to be paying people wanting to buy your house or to help their clients buy your house, just beware that, there's some ramifications to that as well. If you were to take a discount doing what you were doing, would you do as good of a job? Yada, yada. So I don't think a lot of that's going to change. I think the biggest thing that's going to change is that real estate agents are going to have to do a better job, or do a great job, if they already are, of establishing their value to their buyers, right? I can't tell you the amount of, when I bring in a buyer that I'm, or somebody applies with me that's unrepresented, and I'm starting to talk to them about who they're going to use as a real estate agent. Most of them have no idea what value add a buyer's agent actually brings. They're like, well, I can find homes on realtor.com and Zillow.com or whatever search engine I'm looking on. I can find homes on my own. I'm really not too worried about about the buyer's agent. And, you know, it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to show that value to them, you know, showing that the value comes in negotiating the contract. The value of the buyer's agent comes in negotiating inspection periods, right? Once the inspection comes in, what do? What do you ask for? Things like that. While you're finding the home is the easy part. Anybody can do that. You need your agent to help you for everything after that. And I think agents do a poor job in general. I think the industry does a poor job of establishing that as their value. And they're going to need to do that. And they're going to need to show, hey, I need you to commit to me, because now you're going to have a buyer's rep agreement signed, right? I need you to commit to me. This is what I get paid. It's just a little more transparent, right? Gone are the days of you getting a buyer that's gone through the process before and that didn't realize that they were going to have to pay a buyer's agent, right? This is what I get paid, but we're going to try to negotiate to have that done have that paid by the seller in the process, right? We're going to try to negotiate it this way. This is what I get paid, but the game plan is X, Y, and Z, and this is how we're going to get there. And I think more will have to do that, and I think it will demand a little more professionalism from the segment of the industry that has lacked that in the past.
And I've got some thoughts on that going forward, but Candido, kind of, why don't you chime in and kind of your notes on what Mark's talking about?
Yeah. So, full disclosure, I was on a call about an hour ago with my company. People are fired up over this because, I think uncertainty can kind of bring some mixed emotions.
Here.
But I do think, like Mark was saying, education up front is going to be so important. And it's not just from us anymore, right? Because the more education and potential issues, and it's not to scare a client, but the more education that we provide up front to our potential customers, the easier it's going to be, right? So I think, going forward, the same is going to apply for agents. And, I will say there are some really good agents out there that are already, educating their buyers, especially the first time home buyers. Those are the ones that truly end up needing the hand holding, right? They might be the most nervous. Look, I just came back from NAR a couple weeks ago, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. And in that conference, obviously, this was right before the settlement occurred. This was a big topic of conversation, and there's a lot of realtors worried out there. But I think, one of the things that I saw was that, there could be a potential hurt to the Black and brown community, right? So, as much as we are concerned for, as lenders, as real estate agents, the more education that we provide to our clients up front to help hold their hand and guide them through the process, that I think is the biggest opportunity that we're going to run into, that we're having right now. And, as lenders, I truly think we get some of the best sales training out there, right? So how, just like Sean was saying before, how can we go ahead and be a resource rather than going ahead and laughing at realtors right now? I think there's a good opportunity to help be a resource for those that truly want the education and are open to it.
Yeah, I agree, Candido. And, the thought that I had on this is, okay, so how do we succeed? How do we leverage this opportunity as both real estate agents and lenders? And for real estate agents, being able to demonstrate the value, and not by what a lot of agents are doing, which is basically the list of everything I do, or let me show you all the bad things that could happen if you don't use a real estate agent, because that's just going to bring out skeptics. And so my opinion, this is just my opinion, disagree if you like. My opinion is, I think where real estate agents have an amazing opportunity here is to tell stories about scenarios where their expertise shines through. Let me tell you about John and Sarah. John and Sarah were first-time home buyers, and da-da-da-da-da happened. And we were able to do this, that, and the other to help get them to the closing table successfully. And so tell a story about a client that had a scenario that when people see that, when people hear that, the average home buyer is like, shoot, I don't know if I would have known how to navigate that on my own. And so describe these challenges that you've dealt with. We've all had challenging transactions. We've all had challenging clients. We've all had challenging scenarios that come up, and we've navigated them with expertise and knowledge. And so telling stories about those instances to demonstrate the value that you bring, not, oh, I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that. That's all that's going to do is turn people off, or telling people what's going to go wrong if they don't use a real estate agent. That's going to turn people off. We've got to reframe the conversation about our client. We've got to not how, look at me. Oh, I do all this. We can't make it about ourselves. We've got to make it about the other person. This case, clients. And I think as as loan officers, where we can really add value to real estate agents is help them understand that mindset shift, help them understand how to tell stories. If you're not good at telling stories, go read a book, go listen to Audible, go watch some YouTube videos, go subscribe to storytelling. There's a great book called Story Brands, that the entire book is about, building a brand through telling stories. So if you're not great at that, go get great at that. There's so much information out in the world to help us learn that. I think as loan officers, we can go out, we can become the experts at that, and then we can bring that value to our real estate agents and really help them showcase their value to clients, specifically buyers in this example. And I think that's how you win in this post-settlement world is showcasing the value, which again, I agree with Mark. Mark, I don't think anyone in our industry does a phenomenal job, whether it's on the real estate side or the lender side. I think we could always do a better job of showcasing our value, because a lot of consumers look at our industry as commodities. And to overcome that commoditization, we've got to be able to showcase our value.
Agreed. And I think this is the perfect opportunity. This is what you should be showing on social media. The just closed or the bottle of champagne popping post, that's great. But the value that you bring to a client, the storytelling, that's going to become even more important as we move forward.
Yeah. Meet Johnny and Susie. I met Johnny and Susie 15 months ago, 9 months ago, whatever. They were growing, they were focused on growing their family, and were looking for a home to put down some roots and really build their family at. After searching for, 3 months, we found the perfect home for their growing family, and we made an offer. And I'm just, off the top of my head here. And then maybe during that, something went awry. Something wasn't ideal. Doesn't have to be a major disaster, but maybe something just didn't go as expected. Maybe you're talking about the inspection. After getting the inspection results back, we noticed that the home had some roof, there was some damage to the roof that needed to be addressed. And, the foundation may have had some issues. So I quickly got on the phone with my preferred roofing company, reached out to my foundation guy. We got them out, got it inspected right away. Turns out everything was actually in great shape. We were able to move past the inspection with the expert help of my trusted network, right? And so building that story to help clients and prospective clients understand everything that you do without telling them everything that you do, right? Tell me you're an awesome real estate agent without telling me you're an awesome real estate agent. Tell me you're an awesome lender without telling me you're an awesome lender, like those types of things.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think my final thoughts on it are, quite honestly, let's say this happened in 2020 when there were 8 times as many deals happening. Or 2021, when people in the industry weren't already struggling with just the current market in general, would we have had such a negative reaction to it? I think one thing about it is it's happening at a really bad time in the industry where people are already kind of concerned about their paychecks and about what they're making. But you're not wrong. It's definitely about adding value. And before, like I said, before, you still could do all these things, right? It's just, and I think the overall topic is to be able to show your value, because I mean, as lenders, I think we've seen more of it than a lot of real estate agents have. And I think that's probably the biggest negative that agents are going to see now, is that I think they're probably going to be shopped more often because of the transparency of compensation. They can't just say, oh, the seller is going to pay us, it's free to you, right? So they can't really lean on that anymore. I mean, for many years, as long as we've been in the business as lenders, we've known sometimes you're just not going to get the deal. Sometimes,
and there are discount agents now, right? There are agents out there that they'll discount their fees for buyers. So it's not like this is brand new, right? It's not brand new that there are agents that will discount their fees. But now it's really just, it's been put in the limelight, I think, is the primary, not issue, but the primary, focus is it's been thrust out in front of everybody, and the media is just butchering it. Like the media is just like talking, like being little all over the place. Yeah. So I agree 100%, Mark. Candido, any final thoughts? I think we've covered a lot of great points today.
No, yeah. Actually, I do have something to send over to everybody. So if you look in the chat, there was actually, I know we just kind of were doing this for the last month, going through ChatGPT. Well, there's actually a ChatGPT about the NAR settlement. It's called the NAR settlement Q&A GPT. So feel free to use that as a resource. You can go ahead and share it as well with any realtor partners, but thought that was worth sharing with you guys. And, just another reason to watch the Relo Show.
Super cool. Well, guys, I think we hit a lot of great points. Ultimately, the goal is success in our industry, regardless of the environment, regardless of the landscape. Hopefully everyone got some nuggets of great information on how to move forward, and kind of, prepping your mind for the potential minor shifts in the industry. I want to say thanks everybody for joining us on episode 21 of the Relo Show. Make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central. 9 a.m. Pacific. And check us out. We're going to have some great topics going forward. Candido, Mark, man, always good seeing you guys every single Tuesday. Appreciate everybody. Have an incredible rest of your week.